we received intelligence, and the Five Eyes, the countries, did also receive this intelligence that Iran was actively developing nuclear weapons. They were planning to develop up to 10 nuclear weapons within the immediate future. And this was going on while the nuclear negotiations were ongoing. Iran, for many, many years, has used negotiations as a tactic to try to get concessions in terms of sanctions from the Western world in order to buy time. In order to buy time and figure out ways around the IAEA regulations. And remember that the morning before this war actually started, the IAEA themselves issued a statement of non-compliance for the Islamic regime in Iran, detailing how they have violated the nuclear non-proliferation treaty and how they have been developing nuclear proliferation at levels much higher than ever needed for any kind of civilian use. And that's been going on for many, many years. So it's not really something new. And we know exactly what these tactics are of the Islamic regime in Iran when it comes to negotiations. And I think that Israel was actually right to move forward. We can't take these kinds of risks and wait and see what happens when it comes to developing a nuclear weapon that this regime, which is sworn to our destruction in Israel, intends to use. We can't take that risk.
Right, but Iran even now is claiming that its nuclear program is a peaceful one. Why not, release that intelligence for the whole world and even Iran to see that they were in the process of acquiring a nuclear weapon?
Well, some of that information has been revealed. I mean, it is also the statement of the IAEA, not Israel, that did state that they are actively producing nuclear weapons. But even prior to that, if you look at the levels of nuclear proliferation, there is no civilian use for 60% enrichment, which is 90% of the way to a nuclear weapon. There is no civilian purpose for it. So we already know for many years that the level at which they're producing uranium enrichment isn't logical. They're saying one thing to the Western world, but what they're doing is something else. And unfortunately, that's what we've seen for many years. That's why there are sanctions on the Islamic Republic. That's why there has been these multiple rounds of talks over the past few years. And the thing is that they were getting too close. And as I said, we cannot take that risk when it comes to the Islamic regime in Iran obtaining a nuclear weapon. We already know that they're violating previous deals. That's why there was so much debate over no enrichment versus 3.67% enrichment, which is what the proliferation rate was for the JCPOA, the earlier nuclear deal that the US President Trump withdrew from. So there is no civilian purpose for the level of enrichment that they have now again. So that is why we cannot trust what they're saying. And they have spent many, many years preventing IAEA investigators from reviewing their sites openly. They have hid multiple nuclear sites that have been revealed over the years. Even Fordo itself was one of the hidden nuclear sites. And when it was uncovered, then there's, a new scandal, and then they want to negotiate again. This negotiation is a tactic. It's a delay tactic. And it's not something that Israel or really any other Western country should accept.